Alright, and we are recording, and this is Tang Zhang Tang versus Team Excellent in the round of 16 of Diamond Cycle 10, continuing my attempt to cast as much of these games as possible. I did notice there are a few that are unavailable. For example, Stay Green versus Don't Care was apparently not listed in the replays anymore, and so was Simplified Gaming versus whoever Sweet Like Ice, I believe, who they ended up forfeiting to after losing one game. So neither of those will be available because I can't access the replays for them. So it's a little unfortunate, but I'm basically just working my way down the bracket, and it looks like both of those matches cannot be covered. Ah well, we'll find some more content. I'm sure there won't be a lack of that at any point. So this is, once again, a round of 16 matchup between xCet and TZP. xCet on the Legion side, TZP on the Hellborn side, if you couldn't notice that already. And it's no stretch to say that xCet is pretty heavily favored in this matchup, considering that, as far as I know, nobody in the Hellborn team is much of anything. I know Tang Zhang Peng was getting a little love, actually, as an interesting team coming up from Gold Division, but of course xCet's comprised of pretty much an all-star roster of well-known competitive HoN players, led by the CEO and one of the biggest trolls, if not the biggest troll in HoN, Mr. Pew. And Pew and Ganal over there on TZP are just flying through this game. Initial bans are Pestilence, Wretched Hag, Scout, and Engineer. Once again, we see that pesty ban coming out from the Legion side. We've seen that a few times, which is pretty interesting because very often he's first pick material, so I guess nobody on xCet is comfortable with playing him, or they just don't want to play him this game. One or the other. I assume that I assume Zergo is their mid player, so I assume that he would be up on Pestilence, but I guess he just doesn't feel like playing Pesty today. The Scout ban's also pretty interesting because Keizu's a noted Scout player. He likes those suicide heroes that farm very well, and Scout's certainly one of those, so it's pretty interesting that they choose not to allow the Scout in the game. I guess they knew they weren't going to first pick it, so they decided that they didn't want to give TZP the opportunity to pick it up. Wretched Hag and Engineer coming out from TZP. Hag, definitely a worthy ban, I think, against any team and for any team. Just a crazy versatile hero, does tons, especially if you're not first pick. Banning that hero out's never going to be bad, in my opinion. Engineer, interesting ban. Wouldn't have been caused more than a blink, a couple months ago, but recently he's been bypassed entirely in some games, and he's certainly fallen down in terms of the support ladder down below heroes like Rhapsody. Even Torturer, who we've seen a lot of after this cycle. A lot of Torturer in the support role. Moving on to the picking stage, we see xCet picking up Keeper of the Forest, Ophelia, Torturer, and now Jerizaiah. So with the Keeper and Ophelia, I'm going to assume that this is a Suicide Keeper, because unless they decide to run it in the short lane like, I think Reason did that. Yeah, Reason did that in a game, and they ended up winning that game, but they really didn't win the laning phase, and it didn't work out very well, so I hope this is a Suicide Keeper. I don't think he's very good in that role, but we'll see. It's Keizu. He can certainly make it work. Pew will be playing with Ophelia. Of course, he's their jungle player. I'm not sure how good he is with Ophelia. I mean, he's generally a good player, so I don't think it's too concerning, but Oph's not really one of the heroes that he's well known for. He's more of a Parasite player. He plays Tempest pretty well. Gets those God Holes, those 5-man LTs. But I don't think I've seen Ophelia in his hands too often. Torturer, on the other hand, is a very common support hero, so Sender will be picking that up. Jerizaiah, I'm going to guess, is their short laner. He could theoretically be run as a Suicide, but I prefer the Keeper Suicide. Jerizaiah is short, and Torturer and an Initiator middle. Jerizaiah is obviously very difficult to kill, and he can get some pretty decent farm on bot in that solo short lane. He's not likely to give up too much, especially because the Hellborn team is likely to run a solo Suicide Bubbles or DM, and put Tempest in that jungle. Actually, we've seen DM win in a Suicide role. I believe Imboy did that as part of Reason Gaming. No, actually he ran Drunken Master, I think, in mid both times. Somebody did it with Drunken Master, they suicided him. And it was very good, actually. It beat a Jerry. So we've seen that matchup before, and DM was slightly favored. In this situation, I think I would still favor the Jerry more on player skill than actual hero matchup, because Drunken Master just doesn't care about the invulnerability, the magic invulnerability that Jerizaiah can throw out, because all this stuff is physical, so basically just leaves the heal and the slow aura, which is decent, but not really something that you'd normally max. Moving the Hellborn side real fast, we have Tempest, Rhapsody, Rebels, and Drunken Master. So, 3 heroes that have obviously big AoE teamfight ultimates. Two heroes in Tempest and Rhapsody that can help each other push extremely well, so that's some pretty strong push there. Rap Tempest isn't the greatest push in the world, mostly because Tempest minions are awfully slow. Keeper of the Forest is usually a little more effective because Keeper minions are better tanks, and Rhapsody Dance Floor helps them do that. Tempest minions just aren't that tanky, so they die relatively fast even with the Dance Floor. And the SS, so I assume that's actually going to be, I mean that's definitely going to be an SS mid. Could certainly be an SS bot. I would like to see the SS mid Torture Jerry bot now, I think. Torture Jerry's not going to get a whole bunch of kills, but Torture can basically guarantee free farm for Jerizaya. And maybe they're on the Torture Jerry mid, although whether that needs to happen, I don't know. Soul Stealer bot's certainly not a bad thing. And it is knocked on that Soul Stealer, so I do now assume that it's going to be a bot Soul Stealer. Really, any lane combination here is pretty good. The only problem I have really with that is that Soul Stealer and Ophelia don't have the greatest kill potential in the world. Demon Hands are really good if you can line them up, and Ophelia can provide plenty of lockdown if she gets the right minions and if she doesn't gank until level 5, at least when she has 2. But that's going to require some luck in terms of the neutral camp spawns, as well as a considerable amount of time before she can gank. If you put Torture Jerry down there on top of the Ophelia, especially because you can launch the Jerry heal on the Ophelia minions, that seems like it would be much more effective. But the Hellborn team's going to finish off with a Flint Beastwood, which we never, ever see anymore. It's rather shocking, really, to see him here. I assume it's going to be a short laner with Bubble's Suicide, Drunken Master middle with Rhapsody, and Tempest in the jungle. So pretty traditional lanes, or easy-to-call lanes here coming out for the Hellborn team. And they don't appear to be particularly weak in any one area. I am mildly concerned that Flint's just going to get eaten by this Keeper, though, because he doesn't have an escape mechanism. He's not fast. He doesn't do a ton of damage. So Keeper can basically just send his dogs onto the Flint and watch them tear him apart. And that amount of harass that's going to come out could theoretically just completely force him out of lane. So it's possible we'll see the babysit Rap support, but that's going to put a DM solo middle, possibly against a Jerry and Torturer, which is basically going to end up being free for Jerizaya. So if these lanes, depending on how mid and bot shake out for the Legion team, I think Hellborn's lanes are pretty set and quite obvious. But depending on how mid and bot shake out, they could theoretically end up winning all 3 lanes if they put the Soul Stealer bottom, because he'll just destroy the Bubbles on farm. There won't be a ton of gank potential there, but Bubbles is hard enough to kill it. I'm not sure how much it's worth it. It might actually be good to have Ophelia go aggressive jungle here, because then she can screw with Tempest and come in for the back to take down whichever hero or heroes are in middle. And having that third man to gank there on top of the Torturer and Jerry, who I presume will be running this mid lane, could provide a lot of lockdown. On the other hand, if you run Jerry solo middle and Torture Soul Stealer bottom, actually, that could be very effective. The only concern I have about that is that Soul Stealer needs a ton of experience to get particularly effective, and we're going to see the Drunken Wench alt avatar coming out here from DM. And it looks like it's actually be a Suicide DM. So if they do this, and as this ward will get countered, I believe, because it's in range. See, now I don't even... Where's the draw tool? I'm sure maybe that's a mod or something. I don't know. Actually, this courier's up here, so don't get it killed there, buddies. Now, DM is more or less screwed, because this Torturer is just going to box him out. Yeah, there's the Impalement, and he's going to have to stagger away, and that's just going to be a DM that's going to get no farm and very little experience, depending on exactly how aggressive he wants to be and how dangerously he wants to live. Meanwhile, in middle, we are going to see Zerago going up against Bubbles, which is a bit interesting. I do prefer the Bubbles Suicide, I think, in this situation. Just because at least he can leech experience without being in too much danger between Shell Surf and Take Cover. DM's not able to do that, and DM could certainly at least contest this lane, if not win it outright against Jerizaya. We've seen that happen before as a Suicide DM against a short lane Jerizaya, so this could definitely happen well. For DM if you're on him in the mid lane, as he is trying like hell to find some farm here, and Torture is just spending all his time completely boxing him out. If he's not careful, he can... If Torture hits 2 here, that could be pretty bad. As the Impalement comes out, and actually Torture's taking a fair bit of damage here as well, but the Impalement's just doing so much to Drunken Master. He's sitting on 52 experience per minute, just above that Rhapsody support on his own team. Sender's not doing too well himself, but I think that's alright. As we go... that. And we'll go right back into the game. I always forget to turn that on before I start the replay, but who cares? It works in the middle of the replay as well. So Nox is basically going to have free farm down here, and that's going to be a serious problem for this Hellborn team because he can do so much damage if he is allowed to just take free CS. DM's going to back up, I presume to grab more regen because he's got a fair bit actually, he's pulled some as well. So he could still stay in this lane, but he's choosing not to. I really would like to see a switch here between Bubbles and Drunken Master. Although, honestly, maybe not even anymore because now Jerry's level 4 and DM's still level 1, which means Jerry could just abuse him. It probably should have happened earlier as the Impalement, the Lunge, and the Stagger go out, and he's trying to get that Torturer off his ass. So he's level 2 now, it's going to be a little more effective, but of course Torturer has access to Chain Reactions as well as Impalement, so once he gets some mana up, this could theoretically even be a kill if they're good about locking the DM down with Chain Reactions, the Impalement, and making sure the Stagger doesn't do too much. Meanwhile, on top, we haven't talked about this too much, but it's Flint versus Keeper, and KZ's willing to take some pretty serious punishment here to grab some CS. He's going to fall back to the Observatory here and grab himself a health pot. That's pretty solid. As Flint just free farms this top lane, and oh look, we missed a kill on Zergo, and that's... as it looks like an Invis Rhapsody came in with a Staccato Stun, and that's going to end up being a Silence, and then a Shell Surf here from Bubbles, and then Rhapsody actually ends up picking up the kill. So, sorry for that, but hey, that's what we got replay for. It's beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful thing. Anyway, meantime, up here, KZ's actually sitting at 197 gold per minute, but Flint's not doing too much better at 255, and like I said before, those Keeper minions are just going to get sicked on this Flint, and force him to take as much damage as possible. He does still have a health pot, so he's actually not doing too bad on farm, and he's not doing too bad on regen, as he's cleaning up his Keeper minions for farm, even. Meanwhile, sorry, I thought Torture was going on DM again, and he's not. Look at the farm situation overall. Zergo's sitting on 214 gold per minute compared to the 344 of Bubbles. Of course, a lot of that gets helped by the Bloodlust, but clearly there's some creep farm advantage going on there, as Bubbles is 20-1 compared to 16-3 of Terazaya. In top lane, we've got a 16-3 Jerry versus an 18-5 Flint. So Flint's, 15-1 KZ on Keeper versus a 19-5 Flint. So certainly Flint's winning that lane as well. So Hellborn's actually winning mid and top lanes right here. It's a little surprising. I would imagine that, Bubbles taking out Jerry's not that surprising. As he makes some stupid unit acknowledgements right there. But I'm kind of surprised that Keeper isn't doing better up here against this Flint. As a Rev Ward goes down, so if he tries to use Nature's Veil to escape, that's not going to be very effective. He is once again trying to use these Keeper Dogs to harass Rhapsody out of lane, but it's not working too well, as they're just trying to use them to clean up farm. Anyway, the highest farmer in the game is, of course, Nox on a Soul Stealer, who's just been given free farm down here, and is sitting on 32 and 24 CS. Compared to the 0 and 0 of Drunken Master. So poor DM's just sitting on the gold dig at this point. He hasn't died, which is nice, but he has no farm whatsoever. And that's probably not going to change too much. DM can flash farm a fair bit, like if he is given access to the jungle for a little bit, but until he gets smitems, he won't be able to farm stacks. He'll just be able to use a stagger to clear some camps. If he has stacks though, they'll kill him too quickly. And he can't take ancients that effectively until he has some farm. So they're going to need to open up this jungle at some point for this DM. Right now Tempest's sitting in there at 270 gold per minute. He hasn't gotten any kills or assists, so I don't know if he's ganked at all, but I suspect he should have come over at some point and laid down a stun just for some harassment potential. But Pew on Ophelia is doing very well. Not very well at all. 220 gold per minute. He is choosing to push this bottom lane here, only at level 5. He has 2 Vagabonds, which are quite powerful, but it's not the free creep push that you normally see. Of course, they do have a Ballista coming up here, so they'll be able to get some significant damage out of this tower, except if that Shell Surf comes in and helps kill that Oath minion. It won't quite get there, but it'll get it pretty low. So Bubbles is going to put some hurt down here. The Impalement's going out from Torture as the Soul Stealer Demon Hands clean up the creep wave, along with the Vagabond nukes. That's going to be a dead Vagabond though, and this could be a tower kill, unless they get some more support here on the Hellborn side. They're not going to, and that's going to be a dead tower. And possibly a dead Bubbles if he's not careful. This Demon Hand lands, I need one more auto attack, and it's not going to happen, so Bubbles barely escaped with his life, but the Legion side take down a tower, so good on them, and that adds to a 1,400 experience gold lead and a 300 experience lead. So pretty even game right now. That tower is basically the difference between the two teams. It's certainly not on CS with 1,400 gold lead. It's really just a tower. And as we can see in the GPM charts, it's a pretty different situation. We've got pretty even farm here on the Hellborn side with Tempest, Flint, and Bubbles all sitting just around that 300 gold per minute mark. Soul Stealer's up above 400, but the rest of his team isn't above 270 as Keeper is doing some interesting stuff. He's got enough mana for a root, but he doesn't want to use it. But here comes Tempest with the Glacial Blast. He's going to try to invis, but he's not going to be able to because there's nothing. He actually walks out of the way of ward, but the Tempest goes off and kills him. So good gang set there from Tempest, just in time, as Keeper isn't able to get the root off. He is able to get the Nature's Veil, but of course Tempest ultimate revealed as invisible units, and even if it didn't, that damage would have been enough to kill him. So Flint's actually sitting on some pretty solid farm here, considering he was actually contested compared to the DM and bot, who was, pretty much totally shut out of the lane and didn't present any sort of problem for Soul Stealer. And it looks like Legion's going to get this Hellborn tower, Hellborn's going to get this Legion top tower, as the Dance Floor and Tempest minions come in, so there's some of that push potential we talked about in the early game. And, like I said, Tempest and Rhapsody isn't the greatest combination in the world, but Rhapsody is a good pusher no matter what you put her with, even with no other strong pushers, just because that Dance Floor does so much heal and quite a lot of damage to enemy creeps. It really helps you out in terms of the ability to maintain a wave and have them just wreck towers. DM's actually recovered quite a bit here. He's sitting at level 5, so I believe they've given that middle lane up to him. Like I said before, they had this switch, put Bubbles bottom, and put DM middle, and for some reason Zergo on this Cherizaya hasn't really taken advantage of it. He didn't do too much to box DM out of lane apparently, because he was allowed to get some farm and get some experience as Takato Suns come out on Zergo, along with the Silence, Kelp Field, and the Shell Surf away, because a teleport comes in here on Soul Stealer. I don't think it was ever going to be a kill, so I'm not sure that the Kelp Field was the greatest decision there. It just seems pretty unlikely that with as tanky as Cherizaya is, plus the heal, and he does have the Magic Immunity level 2, that they were ever going to be able to get a kill on him. It looks like they're trying to stop this push. And they are going to be successful, I think, here, as Tempest is going to come in with some elementals, and even the Keeper Ophelia is not going to be able to do too much against Dance Floor plus Tempest elementals, as Jerry kind of wastes his heal there. It was fine using it in Soul Stealer because he needed the health, but of course they don't get the damage effect from it either. And again, Soul Stealer is less likely to get bursted down now, so, either way. How really, even the Flint, Flare, and the Shell Surf from Bubbles just have such strong anti-push. Those Keeper dogs all get cleaned up. Ophelia's minions are way down, as one of them actually gets hit with the Flint ulti, which is called, what, Marksman Shot or something? No, that's the Money Shot. Marksman Shot's the Scout ultimate. It's a very similar ability. This DM's now going to head bottom, try to find some more farm, up to 175 gold per minute, which doesn't sound like much, but considering he was sitting on 0 CS at like 5 minutes into this game, that's not terrible. He has now picked up 24 CS in the last 5 or so minutes, which is the lowest in the game for any actual farming hero, but, it's not nothing, and that's what he had before. He's out farming the Rhapsody. It's good for him. So it looks like Excellent has abandoned this group up as 5 and push thing, instead choosing to grab that Energizer and possibly pick off this DM, but he staggers away and he's not going to die. Demon Hands plus Ophelia minions are going to clean up this creep wave on bottom, and they might look for the push to the secondary tower here, as there is only one hero from the Hellborn team, and it's DM, and he's actually leaving. So Oath might just push this by herself, and that's what's going to happen, I think. She isn't going to get this tower, but she'll get some good damage on it. Yes, even with the ult, I don't think you're going to kill this tower. Now you could, because you have Ballista coming in. So if they don't have some defense here on the Hellborn side, now they'll lose this tower. Sorry, as somebody's died over here. Bubbles is just running around, trying to live. Oh boy, you're just... And there's a creep wave. So, I don't know what the hell he was doing back there, but not good things, not surviving, certainly. There's a couple of ports coming into this tower, and they are going to defend it. Staccato Stun's come out on the Vulture Lord. It's not going to kill him. Stagger and Lunge come out for Ophelia Creeps. Also not going to kill the Skeleton King. So they're going to defend this push, but not enough. I believe this tower is deniable now. Yes, 144 out of 1600, so that is deniable. It looks like Oath's going to come back in, try to get it. And DM better hurry up with this, because it's taken a little too long. And he's going to get the deny, but... it took a while. It's actually with the Stagger, and where's the Lunge? And did he already use it? Or he has no mana? He already used it. Sorry, I missed that real fast. Anyway, looks like Keeper's going to try to stop this push here from the Hellborn side, but Flint's just eating his minions, so he says, thank you very much for the free farm. I'm up to 367 gold per minute now. And Nox hasn't really done much to increase his farm. He's sitting at just under 400 gold per minute. Before, remember, he was over 400 GPM a few minutes ago, so a little strange that he hasn't managed to substantially exceed that number by now. Solstice usually farms extremely well. There aren't too many stacks in the jungle, though, I don't think, so... probably that was some bad decision-making from Torturer's perspective. He should have been stacking as much as possible. Even if it allowed DM to lane a little bit, it's more beneficial to get Soulstiller just a ton of farm with all those demon hands than it is to make sure that Drunken Master stays level 1 the whole game, because obviously that's just not going to stay the case. They have done an effective job of making him not an effective hero, but as the Dust of Revelation comes out, and they're actually going to see this Keeper, but he's just going to walk away saying, haha, I'm super tanky. Got a 3-man push up here in the middle lane as the Ophelia, Jerizai, and Torturer come in. Of course, Torturer has level 3 impalement, so he will be able to wreck towers, but we've got 4 heroes coming in from the Hellborn side. Actually, 5 now as Drunken Master always still makes his way in. Invis Rune on Tempest, so he can catch all these bellies. As the Legion actually now has 4 heroes, and it looks like Tempest, or Keeper's up here trying to solo this tower. And if they give him enough time, he will be able to take it. I don't think they're going to give him enough time, because at some point they're just going to abandon this and decide to defend that tower. But they're really looking for a great Tempest ultimate set up by this Invis Rune, and I think the Legion team knows that it's there, because they're playing extremely passive. And KZ does get the tower. So, a little interesting decision-making, I think, there, as the Legion side now feels a lot more confident in going in. Tempest is still invisible, but they've decided that it's their time to go, as Keeper was in fact porting in, and he has the root, so... And we'll be able to fight this. And now it looks like the Hellborn side is going to sort of abandon this. Bubbles heads top, so... I'm not really sure what this is. Like, I mean, if you were going to defend this middle tower, you need to defend the middle tower. You shouldn't send Bubbles top. If you were going to send somebody top, you should have done it before KG took that tower. I think there needs to be a slightly better decision-making here on the side of the Hellborn team. It doesn't seem like they've really figured out what they want to do in the last couple of engagements or decisions that needed to be made. But anyway, Legion side is going to back up from that middle tower push, and DM and Tempest are just going to farm this as Bubbles pushes back that top wave. Jerizai is up here. He's going to put the magic immunity on himself and prevent the Glacial Blast. There is, of course, still the Stagger and the Lunge from DM, but that's not going to do enough to lock him down so he can die. Well, but they're going to put it in anyway, as the magic immunity is going to wear off relatively soon. There's another Stagger as Bubbles comes in with a Haste Rune and a Kelp Field and a Shell Surf, but there's an ultimate from Jerizai, and they're going to try to chase down Tempest here, but the Glacial Blast, Song and Minotaur are going to prevent him from doing anything. So no engagement there, but there was a Kelp Field, a Shell Surf, and a Song of the Sea Burned on Bubbles' part, which means he won't have that ultimate, and I think also, of course, Jerizai's ultimate went off, but I think they're going to use that opportunity here to push. Or maybe not. They keep acting like they want to take down this middle tower, and Hellborn keeps saying, we're going to defend this if you try to do it, and as a result, nobody's doing anything. top, we've got a regen room bottled by Jerizai. The Ancients are triple stacked, and it looks like they'll be doing these as a team real fast. As Hellborn decides to back off from the middle lane as well and keep going to farm. It's quite a passive game. We've only had 3 hero kills total in 16 minutes, and most of them came about 10 minutes ago. So we've had quite a small degree of action here, as Soulstealer's Demon Hands just destroy these Ancients, and he just got a ton of farm, up to 500 gold per minute. So remember before when we were talking about how he was still at 400 GPM and he needs to up that a little bit? Well, yeah, okay, he did. Sitting at 500 GPM now. Flint only at 352, so the same can be said of him. He was at 367 a few minutes ago, and he just spent the last few minutes not farming. And Flint, really, you can't do that. He just needs items so badly, as there's an Invis rune, but Warrior Revelation will spot out that Soulstealer and his Assassin's Shroud. So interesting decision making here, deciding to go for the Assassin's Shroud over something like a Portal Key. Certainly doesn't need the Shrunken Head because of the Jerizai, but I would have expected the PK would be up faster. As the Kelp Throw goes out, catches Ophelia and Torture, but the tower goes down, and it doesn't look like the Hellborn team is going to follow this up any more than they already have. Shellstorm comes out, but Bubbles isn't going to port. Meanwhile, Drunken Master takes down the bottom tower, so tower trade here, slightly favoring Legion because the middle tile is more valuable, but then they actually take a denying the mid tower, so that turned out to favor Hellborn because they took 2 towers for 1. So the tower situation is now 2 in favor of the... No, it should be just 1. Yeah, it's just the secondary tower that's in favor of the... Yeah, see, it just takes so long for that stupid tower thing to update. So I see 9-7, I think the Legion's team is up 2 towers, but no, on the minimap, there's only 1 tower there. Thanks to that one that was taken on bottom by Ophelia and then the Drunken Master denied. So, not quite 18 minutes in this game, quite passive, 4k gold lead, 3k experience lead for the Team Excellent on the Legion side, and Nox is sitting at 500 gold per minute, and he's quite powerful now. He does 189 to 195 damage with his auto attacks, thanks to those souls he's built up. It's actually max soul still, yeah it is. I think it goes up to 60 now, or is it 50, I don't know. Anyway. The gold distribution on the both sides now is actually relatively even, as we can see the Soulstealer goes down to Keizu on the Keeper at 357 gold per minute, Ophelia at 293, so her farm has picked up quite a bit, as Dre will stack these Ancients, I hope. Sorry, meanwhile, on bottom lane, it looks like Nox will take out Drunken Master, as he was just hanging out here. Chain reactions go off, comes back, SS comes in with Assassin's Shroud and a Demon Hand, and that'll take out DM, so... Good play there from Nox and Sender on that Torturer and Soulstealer, and this might turn into a bot tower push, which would be interesting. Yeah, it's not going to happen. Sender going to steal double stacked Ancients, which is a good play. So that's going to be quite a bit more farm for Nox, and possibly a few going to Pew on this oath. Hey, he gets 1. Just 1. You only get 1 Pew. Greedy. Anyway, so Pew's at 297 GPM, Jerry's at 274, so pretty strong farm across the board here for Legion's side. Not quite the same on Hellborn. Flint's doing pretty well at 383 gold per minute, Tempest is doing good at 305, Bubbles is fine at 272, and DM is down at 223, which is not really where you want to be at this point in the game. That's part of the reason it's so easy to pick him off, of course, because he just doesn't have any farm, he doesn't have any items, sitting on Ghost Marchers and Mystic Pessimist, and a Power Supply, that's not enough to take down anything. As a Portal Key comes in with a Root and top of the Soulstealer ultimate, that's going to kill everything. Rhapsody ultimate's actually just out of range for those 2 heroes, so both Flint and Tempest will die on top of Bubbles as they chase him down as well. That's 3 kills, some ultis comboed extremely well. Soulstealer given that magic immunity on top of the Jerry ult, making him immune to all damage. And he pops the ulti on top of the Keep Root and just blasts Flint and Tempest in the face. So this is going to turn into a base push, and these should be racks right here, as Rhapsody actually got picked off too early. Or, not early, but she just stood there ulting, so she needed to get a little bit closer. As the pause vote goes out, but it's meant to be a CC vote, and xCet will take this game. So good performance from xCet, interesting lane decisions. I think the Torture probably should have spent a little more time in the jungle stacking the camp, but hey, if they won the game, you can't really complain about too much. Decisions on Hellborn I think were a little more questionable. That Bubble Suicide probably would have been a little more effective as he could actually stay in lane against Sorcerer. Or at least, shell surf into the woods and leech some experience. But
A Hellborn barracks has been destroyed.
and the DM would have had a much better time against Shiraziah. But it was a good decision sending that Flint top to deal with Keeper. He actually had a pretty good time up there in the laning phase, and then Keizu sort of made it up later, but Flint certainly played his part. So that's game 1, and we'll move on to game 2.